That's right. I don't think this is a site, though. This is not one of the sanctioned sites. I know that for sure. You guys will probably want to hang out in the new wellness center. All right, we'll start with just a recap of the Nicholls State game. And look, we have a way to kind of go through the week, and I know you guys have picked up a little bit on it, but Sunday is called Assessment Sunday for us. It gives us an opportunity to assess our play after our performance, which was a successful Saturday for us, and so many times when we get together, it's a a quick reaction to a question, and what I saw on the field, what you saw on the field is prompting your questions, and we have a healthy discourse, accordingly. Been doing it for 34, 35 years. And that's the nature of the media and the head coach in a press conference. But the great part of this is that we get an opportunity to spend 7 hours dissecting film and going over the game plan and watching. And as I got a chance to do that with our staff and meeting with the staff, there were a lot more good things that happened in that game than I was able to articulate after the game. We had a number of first-time players step up and play really good football for us. And excited about Gabe Relaford's play, for example. Jawan Johnson stepping in as a true freshman and playing, after being told on Tuesday that he was moving into an offensive position. Sean Washington, who, had to step in for an injured Jacoby and Guillory, playing literally his first snaps for us after spending the first 3 weeks on scout team. And that was great to see. Alexander coming back from knee surgery, an ACL, and playing the kind of aggressive, man-to-man coverage that we were looking for, and almost picking up from where he left off, before he got that injury against Army. Really great to see that. Have the return game with Zion that had been missing. So there were so many really good things, and I think the most important thing was this sense that we were out-physicaled, and that simply wasn't the case. From an offensive standpoint, we threw the football because that's what was required in this game. They were in a 7 and an 8-man front, and we needed to throw the football. We were not going to run into extra hats, and an extra hat being an extra defender, just to flex and say we're the bigger guys. We're going to do tactically and technically what is the most appropriate thing. That's why Garrett Nussmeier leads the country in touchdown passes right now, and he's throwing at 75%. So I just wanted to give you a sense of assessing what transpired in that game. Now, that's from an offensive perspective. There's no sense here of our offensive line is not physical enough or can't knock people off the ball. When we needed to, we did that. And so I feel really good about that. Defensively, there were 2 drives that were difficult for us to get off the field. They hit some really good plays against us. We're on 3rd down. They kept the drives alive, hit some snag routes, some slant routes. We get some young guys out there that are learning on the fly. Excuse me. But we were aggressive up front. We fitted the plays pretty darn good. I told our guys, this team, Nicholls, was a lot like many of the games that I played at Notre Dame when we're playing Navy. It's a difficult offense to defend. It's ball control. You better know your gap responsibility. And if you don't leverage them the right way, you're going to give up a big play. And they were able to milk it the first couple of drives. And then after the big play run, I thought our defense did a great job. So I just wanted to give you that sense. Nicholls did a great job. Hats off to them. They played a great game. They were sound. They had a great game plan. But at the end of the day, after the touchdown run, we held Nicholls to 86 yards on their final 5 possessions. So that coupled with, what we did on the offensive side of the ball, I feel a whole lot better than I did Saturday after I went home for dinner on Sunday night. So, having said that, we move on to SEC play and a very good South Carolina team. Noon kickoff, ABC, college game day. So it's obviously going to be a great environment there, a great opportunity for us to take another step in the development of our football team, and obviously, continue to work to get better. As we mentioned, Garrett leads the SEC in passing touchdowns and completions. Lacey leads the SEC in receiving touchdowns. Xavier Thomas leads in kickoff return yardage. And, our offensive line's done a great job in keeping Garrett up and allowing him, obviously to throw the football. Playing South Carolina, you look at what Shane's done. He really gets his team to play well, and particularly at home. They come off a really great road win against Kentucky, 31-6. And a lot of it is, the type of offense they're running now with, Sellers at quarterback, Sanders, the transfer from Arkansas, Simon at tight end. This is a big physical quarterback. Reminds me of the kid at Florida, Richardson, the quarterback at Arkansas. Big physical, 6'3", 242. We're going to have to be prepared for a kind of a similar offense in a sense, but a guy with a strong arm that can, certainly get the ball down the field. Campbell, Harbor. Harbor's a freak of an athlete, so they've got some weapons there from an offensive standpoint. Defensively, they lead the SEC in sacks. So this is a defense with an outstanding front, freshman edge player, and Stewart and Kennard's an outstanding player. Really love Amanda Worry, the defensive back, number 7, very active. He was a freshman All-American 2022. Just a really good defense, and they run both 3 down and 4 down, and made it really difficult for Kentucky last week. And then very innovative, do a lot of things in the special teams game. So on the road in the SEC, we know the challenges, especially with the noon start, and we look to improve on all facets of our game as we go on the road against the Gamecocks. So with that, open it up to questions.
Brian, can you confirm Jacobian Guillory's injury? Maybe speak about what that loss means for your team.
Yeah, obviously, we've lost him for the year. It looks he's going into surgery right now with an Achilles tendon rupture. Look, he was a stalwart for us. Big, physical, point of attack guy. We're having conversations now with he and his family about the possibilities of medical red shirt for him. We'll have more information on that as that kind of comes together. But now we have other guys that are going to have to step up in that situation. So, again, I think we'll have more information as it comes together. But, in terms of that rotation, we have some ideas in terms of what we might do in the next couple of days.
And to the point of your opening salvo and maybe perspective, I guess, how much of that is on the buildup that we all assumed was going to be the strength of this team, being the offensive line, and Will Campbell talking about going to run the ball right at people? How much of that is us making more of, kind of like you said, attacking it differently but still being effective?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with the media. This is not a media-created scenario. This has to do with how teams have wanted to defend us. And that is they don't want us to run the football. So this is really about a team. And I told Joe Sloan, Joe, I do not want this to be about, we have to run it to show everybody that we're big and bad and we have an offensive line. If they protect like they have, and we haven't given up a sack in 2 games, and let Garrett Nussmeier throw the ball against cover 1, we have great receivers and we'll beat you that way. Look, I've built my career on wanting to be equally as good. Balance to me is being equally as good at running it as throwing it. Now, if South Carolina comes out in 3 down and plays cover 2, I guarantee you we're running the football. But when you're loaded in there and there's 8 guys on the line of scrimmage and you're just saying, oh, I can't block them all, what sense does it make really in those situations? We'll pick our spots. There are going to be times that you're going to have to make a guy miss or run a guy over, which we did on several occasions in the blue zone. But by and large, this has nothing to do with you guys. This has everything to do with the way teams have wanted to play us. And it's been much more with a loaded front, and that's going to cause us to throw the football.
You mentioned Zai playing more than half the snaps, and I think you only had like 60-something snaps on defense. But where is he at going into a game like this in terms of what he can maybe handle? And then Sage moved back to safety and even played there when Jordan came back in the second half. Where are y'all at kind of with the outlook at DB?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think what we have found is that nobody is at a point where they can play 65, 70 snaps. We have to get our players playing at the highest level, but not playing that many snaps. I think Zai can play, 30, 35, but he's going to have to be spelled as well. So, I think you're going to see 4 corners playing. I think you're going to see 4 or 5 safeties playing. So I think we're going to really rely on the depth of those units to make certain that we're playing at the highest level instead of saying, hey, Major Burns, you got to play 65 snaps or 62 snaps. And I think we'll be a better defensive backfield playing in that capacity.
Brian over here. When you lose a guy like Jacobian, does the coaching staff have to, I don't know if scale back necessarily is the right phrase to use here, but do you temper your expectations of what you expect from that position on the interior defensive line, or how do you go about that?
Well, Jacobian, was a very technically sound, physically strong football player. So you know what you're losing from that standpoint. But we know what he wasn't as well. And he wasn't a dynamic pass rusher, and he would be the first to tell you. But you're losing a very strong inside presence, to your defense. And so you've got to look at, who can make up for that. And, we've got some ideas about how we can do things with our front that can, make up for his loss. But, it's like any time you lose a really good player, you don't necessarily make up for what he did. You try to do some other things differently that can complement the guys that you have.
Coach, right over here down to your left. Speaking on the linebacker position,
Yep.
Whit Weeks had a big game, but could you just kind of maybe expound upon the options you have there and maybe the push with 2 games worth of film to look at now of how to get Harold Perkins, maybe some more of the splash plays that we've seen and become accustomed to him seeing and doing?
Yeah, we go back and forth in terms of, Harold's production and, wanting to get him involved as much as we can. And, part of it is, setting him up for success. And so, that always becomes the conversation of getting guys in the right place at the right time. And part of it is, the players have to, obviously make the plays as well. So, we're continuing to look at, are we better suited in, nickel personnel? Are we better suited in, 3 linebacker sets? So I think in answering the question honestly is just, I think it's a continuous search of trying to get him in a position where, he can impact our defense the most. So, I think we'll continue to work on that this week and see where we end up on Saturday.
Hey, Coach, right here in the middle. Gabe Relaford had a great game, of course, against Nicholls. He was actually a defensive end, then you moved him to defensive tackle. Speak about his versatility, and also can you touch on other guys who've been cross-training at both D end and D tackle?
Yeah, we didn't move him to defensive tackle. He was playing in our nickel package inside. It's just a pass rush position, but he's a defensive end. No, he just, obviously he's a guy that we really liked coming out and felt like he had some, ability to play early on, but he's worked at it. And has put himself in this position. Obviously, Coach Peoples done a great job with him early on in his pass rush techniques. But he's a natural end that, when we get into our nickel and dime packages, we can slide into a 4 technique, and he can be an inside pass rush guy for us.
Hey, Coach, what was so upsetting about the field goal at the end of the first half?
I wasn't upset about missing the field goal. I was upset about the process. I had just explained what the process was, and the referee went over and explained it to Damien and confused him. And essentially said, listen to the head coach. I've been doing this a long time. He got confused about the process. So we had a 1.46 operation time. Your operation time needs to be about 1.1. He thought something different was going to happen after the explanation. I had taken the time to explain it to him. He didn't listen to me. I like our guys to listen to me. Is that okay? Especially in those situations.
Hey, Coach.
He'll listen to me in the future.
Gotcha. We didn't see Kamori Pimpton out there much. Just can you maybe give an update on him? And then we also noticed that Bo Bordelon kind of switched numbers to 9. Just what do you guys like about that? And is that
Well, he just gives us another big guy, at the tight end position. Pimpton had been nursing an ankle, was not 100%, didn't feel like we could get him in there. So, that's why you saw a lot more trade as. But Bordelon, coming in at that tight end position, he's an athletic guy that we felt like gives us a big push on the goal line. And then, of course, we put him in there and we throw the ball. So we want to break a couple of tendencies early on with him. But no, I think, he gives us a nice physical presence there as that third tight end.
Hey, Coach, just on a couple of the young guys they're relying on, the Lenora Sellers and Dylan Stewart. The quarterback and defensive end, 2 very key positions to be with first-year guys. Wondering is it tough to know exactly what to expect from them so early, or do you feel like you have a good handle on what they do well?
Oh, well, Sellers is a pure pass rusher. Sellers, the quarterback, he is a physical presence, and a lot like, I think I got the name right, Richardson, the quarterback that played at Florida, isn't it Richardson? Big, physical, strong. He's got a cannon for arm. The kid can throw it 65, 70 yards. He just reminds me of that kind of physical presence. But he's a new starter, But you're going to have to do some really good things to defend the quarterback and the quarterback run game because they've got the transfer from Auburn as well. So, that's going to be important for us. So that's going to give us, a great understanding after playing Nicholls of the quarterback run game. The defensive end, Stewart, is a pure pass rusher. And, it doesn't mean he can't defend the run. I'm not saying that. But he's a guy that they want in there to get after the quarterback. And we're going to have to do a really good job about it. We're going to have to be disciplined in our drops. We're going to have to get the ball out on time because those edge guys can certainly, this is an SEC defensive front, and they can get to the quarterback, and in particular, he can.
Hey, Brian, over here. Latest on Garrett Dellinger, Chris Hilton, and Kyle Parker?
Dellinger is cleared. He'll be at practice tomorrow. He'll be ready to go. I think, if we were playing, last weekend against it was the championship game, we could have maybe done something about it, but I think it was best to hold him. Kyle Parker is improving. We're trying to get full strength back from that nerve that kind of got pinched. I think he's probably a guy that will find himself ready by the end of the week. And Chris is day-to-day. He is ground-based. He is running. This now becomes, what can you tolerate? There's going to be some pain associated with it, but he has all function now, and it's just a matter of time now with Chris. When he starts to feel really good, where he can get in and out of breaks and function at his level, we'll see him back on the field.
And then following up on Shay's question, do you plan to keep Sage Ryan at safety moving forward?
I think that's where he can help us the best. Look, he's a very versatile player for us, but I think that's where he fits right now for us. I think, we've really focused in now with Alexander playing at the level he has. I think it just makes sense for us to keep him at the safety position.
Coach over here. So Garrett Nussmeier, he spread the football 8 different receivers one Saturday night, and besides Kyron, got a lot of different guys involved. So as far as that second receiver, because of how deep that receiver position is it going to be for that second guy, you think, by committee, whether it's Anderson and Daniels and some of those other weapons?
Yeah, and I think there's going to be more to come. I think we just talked about Chris coming back. Kyle Parker's going to get in the mix here before it's all said and done. I really think that as we keep going, I know I talked about Sampson, but, we got to, there are the little things that he's got to continue to work on, but he's going to get some touches before this season is out. So I just think that there's more guys. As you know, Taylor's having a monster year for us right now, and I think that's going to continue. He's on the pace right now, Garrett, to throw between 45 and 50 touchdown passes. If we can continue that, if teams want to play us the way they are, he's a very talented quarterback, and we've got a lot of depth at the wide receiver position.
Hey, Coach. I know you guys have been doing a ton of rotating at defensive tackle anyway before the Guillory injury, but you still need to obviously replace his snaps. So who's going to, I guess, see an increase in playing time potentially and sort of fill that role?
Well, as I mentioned, Sean Washington picked up most of those snaps on Saturday. Sean wasn't scheduled to play. When Guillory went out, Sean picked him up and played it very, very well. So he's going to be the first guy that picks up a piece of those. And then we're going to have to make a decision. Do we activate, McKinley, Don McKinley? Do we get him moving a little bit more? Do we move somebody down inside that's a defensive end that can help us, and so there's some guys that maybe can move down inside to give us some more snaps. And we're probably talking about, 15 to 20 more reps that are needed inside. So, once Sean is able to do the things that he did on Saturday, that helps us a lot now in trying to find another 15, 20 reps.
And offensively, you talked a lot about the boxes and not wanting to run into those heavy box counts, but does Garrett have the latitude to line of scrimmage to change the play based on what the box count is?
Yeah, so we have 4 balls that we threw out on the perimeter that were runs. Those are actually run plays, right? So when that ball gets thrown out on the perimeter, you see Anderson catch the ball, on a quick perimeter throw. Those are run plays that he's throwing the ball out because there's too many guys. I can't block them all. So that happened 4 times. Those were run calls with too many players that you couldn't block. So the ball gets thrown out on the perimeter, and those are some of his checks. The other ones, some of those run plays, we have hitch routes attached to it. And the run is called, but because there's too many guys, we have free access throws that we can throw the ball onto the perimeter as well. So, I think we had 23 or 26 runs. I think we probably called in totality maybe 35, 36 run plays, but they were checked out of because of the particular looks.
The Juwan story, the quick week and how well he performed. Can you kind of take me through that process? How much more does he get now? And what does the next thing look like for him?
We're going to lay a lot, as much as we can. So I would say as much as we can, more so than a lot. And I think he's capable. Early indications are he picks things up fast. He's a quick study. The game comes easy to him. And, I'm a big believer, give him as much as he can handle. And he's not a guy that will shy away from any of it. So I'm excited. I want to just continue to give him more and more and, see where it goes. That's where we're at right now.
Brian, are y'all going to make any contingencies for the hurricane later in the
Yes.
week?
Yeah, so we've already had, there's one thing that I've learned about being here at LSU. There are plans over plans over plans when it comes to when people talk about hurricanes. So the thing that we're clear on is we have a plan in place for Wednesday, Thursday, because that's when obviously it's imminent. And then the next stage is thunderstorms on Saturday, and then disruption of the game. So I've already met with our strength staff for stretching purposes, our nutrition. So it's been a long morning on hurricanes and thunderstorms on Saturday. So yes, we're already on top of that. Thank you.
The weather might hurt that atmosphere, but I don't think LSU's been there in 16 years. They've got ESPN College Game Day.
Oh, I didn't know that. 16 years is the last time?
I think 2008.
Wow.
So the intensity of the atmosphere that you're facing your first true road game and whatnot, what does your team have to rise up to meet from that perspective?
I just think, there's a lot of guys that have played on the road, understand what it takes to win on the road, whether it was Mississippi State last year, Missouri at homecoming. There's a lot of guys that have played in that atmosphere. It just requires, a focus. It requires an understanding that you're in it every single play, an incredible sense of urgency. And I'm certain that they're aware of what is going to be necessary for them to be successful. I'm not dealing with a group of guys that will be surprised by what game day and South Carolina and all that will be about. And we'll prepare for it with crowd noise and things of that nature this week to get them ready. But it'll take a great effort, a team that's locked in and playing their best when their best is needed. Good? All right. Thank you.